Hey, I'm Sarah, and I'm going to answer a question people love to whisper, giggle about, or type into Google at 2 in the morning like it's some forbidden secret. Do Amish ladies wear bras? I'm not here to clown on anyone. I'm not here to make up stories or act like I'm speaking for every Amish woman everywhere, because that would be fake and honestly disrespectful. I'm just going to tell you what I know from my real life, from how I grew up, and from what I've seen with my own eyes and lived in my own body. I grew up Swartzentruber Amish, and if you know anything about the different Amish groups, you already know Swartzentruber is about as old order as it gets. Strict, simple, plain, very little change, even when the outside world changes fast. So when people ask me, did the women wear bras? My answer is easy. In my community, no, they didn't. And I know how some people picture it. They imagine Amish women as these mysterious characters from a TV show, like they're all the same, like there's some official Amish rule book somewhere that says bras, yes or no. That's not how it works. A lot of what happens in Amish communities isn't written down like a list you can Google. It's community standards. What's normal, what's accepted, what you grow up seeing your mother do, your sisters do, your neighbors do. And when you grow up inside it, you don't sit around analyzing it. It's just life. So no, in my Swartzentruber community, the women didn't wear store-bought bras the way most English women do. And I can already hear someone saying, how do you know? Were you out checking? No, that's not what I'm saying. But when you're a girl growing up around women, you know the rhythms of life. You do laundry, you hang clothes, you're in close quarters, you help each other, you share things, you notice what exists and what doesn't. And bras, like the kind you buy at Walmart or Victoria's Secret, were not a thing in my world. And I'm going to be honest with you because I'm Sarah and I'm not here to make things sound prettier or weirder than they are. For most of us, it wasn't even a topic. Nobody stood in the kitchen giving a speech about bras. It was more like, that's just not something Amish women needed in the way we were dressing. Because Amish women aren't usually wearing one thin shirt and calling it a day. We're talking layers. We're talking dresses that are cut loose, aprons, capes sometimes, thicker fabric, and a whole style that isn't built around shaping your body or showing your figure. So when everything you wear is already loose and layered, you don't feel the same pressure to hold everything up the way the outside world expects women to do. But this is where it gets interesting. Just because we didn't wear store-bought bras doesn't mean there was never any kind of support ever, especially for nursing moms. Because if you've ever breastfed, you already know your body changes, your chest changes, your comfort needs change. Your daily life becomes about function, not fashion. You're bending, lifting, carrying babies, working, moving, sweating, living. And in my community, some women, especially when they were nursing, had what I can only describe as homemade support garments. Not a modern bra with cups and wires and clasps and sizes like 34C. More like a homemade piece of clothing that went over the shoulders and fit tighter than a regular undershirt, almost like a snug little shirt or sling that gave some lift and some hold. It wasn't about looking cute. It wasn't about cleavage. It was about practicality. It helped keep things from pulling painfully. It helped keep things from bouncing around when you're trying to work. It helped you feel a little more secure when your body is changing and you're constantly feeding a baby. And I'm trying to say this in a respectful way, but also a real way. When you're a nursing mom and you're doing chores, you don't want everything hanging and moving and feeling sore and heavy. It can genuinely hurt. So yes, I've seen that kind of homemade solution, and I know for sure that my sisters used those. Now, I want to pause here because sometimes people hear this and they go, oh, so Amish women don't wear bras because they're not allowed to care about comfort? No, that's not the point. Swartzentruber life is very strict, yes, but women still care about comfort. Women still solve problems. Women still figure out what works out. They just do it within the boundaries of what's accepted in the community, and those boundaries can be complicated because here's a truth that surprises a lot of people. Amish communities change. Slowly, quietly, sometimes without admitting it out loud, but they change. Even the Swartzentruber. And I know that might sound impossible to some of you because Swartzentruber Amish have a reputation for never changing anything. But I've lived it. I've watched things shift, little things at first, and then you look back and realize, wait, that's actually a big thing. For example, bathing. When I was growing up, baths weren't the everyday automatic thing like they are for a lot of people outside. You didn't have hot running water and a shower you could just jump into whenever. Bathing took effort, it took time, it took heating water, it took planning. So it didn't happen the same way, the same frequency, the same mindset. But now, even the Schwarzenegger Amish I know are taking more baths than they did back then. And brushing teeth, same thing. It's not that people never brush their teeth, but the emphasis on it, the consistency, the products, those things have shifted too. People are more aware. They're doing it more. And then there's something else people don't like to talk about, but I'm going to say it plainly because this is real life. Feminine products. When I was growing up, there were different ways women handled their periods, and it was very private, very matter of fact, and also not like the outside world. But now a lot of Amish women, even conservative ones, are using store-bought pads, and that alone tells you something important. Practicality changes people. Needs change. Convenience becomes tempting. And sometimes, once one modern thing slips in, other things slowly start slipping in too. So when you ask me, do Amish women wear bras now? I'm going to answer it the most honest way I can. I can't speak for every Amish community. I can't even speak for every Schwarzenegger community because different districts and families can be different. But in my experience, I personally have never seen Schwarzenegger Amish women wearing modern store-bought bras like English women do. What I have seen is those homemade options, especially for nursing. And I have seen a general trend of small changes over time, changes people might not talk about openly, but you notice if you've lived it. And I think a lot of people are fascinated by this question for one reason, because it's not really about bras, it's about curiosity. It's about the tension between an old way of life and a modern world that keeps pushing in. It's about how women live inside strict cultures. It's about what gets allowed, what stays forbidden, and what quietly becomes normal without anyone announcing it. And it's also about the fact that in the outside world, women's bodies are constantly being managed by fashion, by beauty standards, by expectations, by men sometimes, by other women too. And then people look at Amish women and think, oh, they must be totally free from that. But the truth is, Amish women have their own kind of pressure too. It's just different. It's not pressure to be sexy. It's pressure to be plain, to not stand out, to not draw attention, to not look worldly. So even if a modern bra would be more comfortable for some women, the question becomes, is it worth the risk of being seen as changing too much? Is it worth gossip? Is it worth someone judging your family? Is it worth being talked about at church? Because yes, people talk, even in the plainest communities. And if you've never lived in a small, tight community like that, you might not understand how powerful that is. When everyone knows everyone, when you can't disappear, when your choices aren't just your choices, they reflect on your parents, your husband, your children, your whole name. So a lot of women learn to adapt quietly. They don't make a big statement. They don't announce, I'm wearing a bra now. They solve the problem with something homemade, something subtle, something that still fits the spirit of the community. And I also want to say something that matters. A lot of Amish women are strong, like physically strong. They work hard. They carry heavy things. They live through pregnancies and births and breastfeeding while still doing chores that would exhaust most people. So when people ask these questions in a joking tone, I get it. The internet loves shock value. But I also want you to hear the humanity underneath it. These are real women with real bodies, with real discomforts, with real solutions. Sometimes the solution is we just don't wear bras. Sometimes the solution is we make our own support garment. And sometimes, depending on the community and the family, maybe the solution has changed and I just haven't been close enough to see it because I left. And once you leave, you're not in the middle of the daily life anymore. You hear things, you see things when you visit, you notice changes, but you don't live every private detail like you used to. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything. What I do know is what I lived. In my Schwarzenegger childhood, bras weren't part of the normal wardrobe, and when nursing entered the picture, homemade supportive pieces sometimes did. And as time goes on, even the strictest communities shift in small ways. Bathing more, brushing teeth more, using store-bought pads. So it wouldn't shock me if other under-the-radar changes are happening too. And if this topic feels random to you, let me tell you why I still talk about it. Because questions like this are usually the doorway. People start with something simple, like bras, and then they start asking bigger questions. How do Amish women handle pregnancy? How do they handle body image? How do they handle intimacy? How do they handle health? How do they handle shame? How do they handle freedom? And I'm not saying Amish life is all bad. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm saying it's real. It's complex. It's human. And it deserves to be talked about like it's human, not like it's a circus. So, yeah, that's my honest answer. Do Amish ladies wear bras? In my Schwartzentruber community, no, not the way the outside world means it, side. But some women, especially when nursing, used homemade supportive garments that did the job without being a real bra. And if you're still here listening, it tells me you're not just here for a quick laugh. You actually want to understand what it was like. And that means a lot to me. Because for a long time, I felt like my story was something people either romanticized or mocked. And it's neither. It's my life.